Good morning and welcome to day 2 of the City of Grand Prairie's capital budget discussions. We're in Council Committee of the Whole, and we're going to start off with items that were flagged for further discussion from yesterday. We made it, well, probably a little bit over halfway through our list of flagged items, and there were a couple, though, that we required some additional information on, and those were in the corporate services area. And so we'll start our morning off going back to our Corporate Services Director, Ken Anderson, to speak about corporate IT initiatives and security and disaster recovery. Ken?
Good day. I thought I'd clean up a few other items first. Could you show the graph? Yesterday afternoon, Councillor McLean asked what the debt curve looked like without the airport of $16 million on it. So that's what it looks like. But also, some of the current debt we have is not ours. We've borrowed $8 million for the airport a couple of years ago, so that's in that as well. Plus, there is a small borrowing for Willow Place when they constructed their building. But both organizations are debt servicing it.
Okay. Thanks, Ken. Councillor Gustafson?
So in regards to the airport, like the airport makes those payments as well, right? The city does not make those payments.
Mr. Anderson?
What happens is they pay us and we pay it because the debt is in our name.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'll give you an update of where we are as well. On the tax side, we have now 2012 is 3.6%, 2013 is 4.3%, and 2014 is 3.7%. The change was 2014 by 0.1, and it's recognized the first half of the leisure center, $2 million.
Okay, thanks, Ken.
One more update, as far as where we are with some of those balances, the tax number that we have now, the capital tax number that's remaining at the end of 2014 is $2 million. MSI at the end of 2014 is $1.8 million.
Councillor Rice?
When does MSI end?
Mr. Anderson?
The current
I
agreement?
believe it ends 2016, somewhere around there. We're about halfway through the program.
Okay, thank you. Have we, where have we committed as far as?
Sorry, I don't understand.
Well, we have MSI money. You said we have 1 point something left.
Correct.
Okay, to
The end of 2014.
Okay, so, and we haven't touched the final 2 years.
No. And some of this MSI during this current cycle falls into years 13 and 14 if things were to change.
Great.
Ken, just on MSI, so how does the amount that administration is calling as available in the budget, how does that line up with what we're predicted to be funded by the province? I guess what I'm asking is, in previous years, we thought we were going to get this much money, we made plans based on that, and then we actually only received this much money. And there was a gap there that ultimately we had to do increased borrowing for projects. And so do we actually have, does administration think we're going to get $1.8 million based on what the province told us, or is that a conservative assumption of how much we're going to get?
Well, the $1.8 million is the amount remaining that we have carried forward at the end of 2014. What we've used is we've been fairly conservative on the estimates for 12, 13, and 14. We'll get the actual amounts of 12 in the spring of 12 when the provincial budget is released. So we've been conservative.
Okay, so would you say you're estimating 90% of what the province is predicting, or 100%? Like,
I'd say we're in the 95 to 100. That's our estimate, but it's dependent on the budget.
okay.
But I think we're safe.
Okay, thanks. I see Councillor Rice.
When they committed to X number of dollars, I think 35 million was Grand Prairie's. But then when they cut it back, they said you will still get the same amount of money just over a longer period of time. Is 2016 the longer period of time?
No, that's the original program.
Okay.
They said they would lengthen it, but depends on the government of the day.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Ken.
Okay, so I'll go back to the security items, just to give you a few stats. First of all, we have about $15 million in systems, and that's hardware and applications. We have 12 terabytes of data with a capacity of 22 terabytes, and a terabyte is 1,000 gigabytes. We have 60 servers, 460 PCs and laptops, 95 printers, 550 voice over IP phones, and 200 PDAs and smartphones. So we have about 1,365 devices, and every device has the ability to lead to issues on security. So to go through some of the specifics of what we have one of them is WebSense, which is $100,000. Internet traffic passes through this system and eliminates malware, URL filtering from our users going out to the internet. This prevents being returned to our system through questionable websites and from infected websites. FireEye, which is $50,000, is botnet protection. Botnets infect PCs and are used later for attacks on other systems or criminal activities. There are cases of large organizations being infected and unknowingly being used in these attacks during criminal activities. The two-factor authentication, $100,000. It's a requirement for the PCI compliance, which is payment card industry. That's the industry that allows us to use Visa and debit and MasterCards.
And that's 100,000?
Correct. Requires a second level of authentication to gain access to the network. It usually is some type of physical token that you need possession of along with your username and password. It's equivalent to having your debit card, which is physical, and your PIN number, which is a password. Disaster recovery is the second site virtualization. That's $200,000, and we do that at the South Fire Hall. Doing this would allow us to recover in any kind of disaster within minutes. And it's for 10 high-end servers and storage areas, 22 terabytes of intelligent disk storage again, and $25,000 for the virtualization software management system. Security side, there's penetration testing application, $100,000 for system and software to ensure complete compliance with industry regulations. Test both inside and outside of network for security holes, security risks, and vulnerabilities. Some of this testing is required for PCI compliance, and some is an industry best practice for organizations our size. PCI compliance requirements are tiered. The city is a tier 4 client, and this testing is reasonable for that level. That's 100. Disaster,
Another 100.
correct. These are the pieces of the full amount, and they're going down in order of what the security department thinks the priority is as well. Disaster recovery, $50,000 for additional off-site costs of second data environments such as improved HVAC, UPS, rack mounting, cabling, and power systems. And as I said, that's currently at the South Fire Hall.
So Ken, so
Yes.
I had a question. Councilor Rice, do you have a question? You're in the queue, or, okay, go ahead.
AUMA has some sort of a system. And of course, being a techno peasant, I obviously don't know what it is, but they have some sort of a system. There's a small piece of equipment on site. It backs up everything that's on everybody's computer every 15 minutes automatically. I guess I'm wondering why we wouldn't go to an outside contract like that.
Well, what we have now is we have some backup facilities at the South Fire Hall. This would give us virtualization, and virtualization is essentially taking a big box and creating virtual servers within. It would allow us to recover within minutes. So that's essentially our backup in case something happens to this site.
So Ken, just on that one, is it the case that if, for example, in City Hall, we have a bunch of specialized computers or servers that do functions like payroll, tax rolls, HR, whatever they are, all those different functions. And we have a special box, an individual computer for each of those. And then virtualization would say if City Hall burnt down and those physical boxes were gone, we could flick a switch at the fire hall, and in the 5 computers or 10 computers or whatever it is that they have down there, they could replicate the payment system, they could replicate the tax roll system. Is that what the virtualization does?
Well, that's correct. Currently, we have 60 physical servers. You could go down to 5 or 10 larger ones and actually create them virtually on the larger machine. And this will, in real time, duplicate at the South Fire Hall, such that there is a disaster, something happens here, or we're unavailable to come to here. that we can just recover within minutes. Otherwise, it could take you weeks to months to recover.
So this would be like a, I mean, you know, to use a real world example, like a slave lake sort of thing, where, you know, for them to be able to recover all their municipal data and municipal systems, this is why we have a backup.
Well,
Is
that's
that right?
correct. I mean, there's train tracks behind here, and if something happened to this building, then we'd have huge problems without proper recovery systems.
But
Councillor Rice?
this train tracks right behind the South Fire Hall too.
Maybe it won't happen there and here. Unless it's a really long train.
Go ahead, Ken,
Speaking of which,
as the train goes by.
There's a couple of more items. One is Encase forensic software for $75,000 allows to specifically track and testify about very technical and specific illegal activities similar to forensic accounting. And we have $150,000 for system and process upgrades for the overhaul of the security plan, disaster recovery plan, and ITS business continuity plan. So that's what makes it up.
oh, this makes sense to you.
Okay. So Councillor Rice, you'd raised these items previously, and so did you have any, well, sorry, I see Councillor Wong and maybe with a question or a comment here. I'll give you a chance.
Yeah, I have a question in terms of how often IT has set up to renew this type of software and upgrade our technology. This is kind of an ongoing process when you look at technology. Every so many years, you have to upgrade your system, otherwise it does become vulnerable.
Their cycling is 3 to 4 years.
Okay, so we could expect to see the similar type cost every 3 to 4 years.
Similar. Depends how extensive the technology has changed or whether we can adapt current pieces to what we have.
Okay, so the last time it was done was about 3 or 4 years ago?
Yes, I mean, our disaster recovery system is partially in place. We really need to bring it up to speed. And now with the advent of virtualization, it becomes much easier.
Okay,
Not
thanks, Ken.
only will it be easier for disaster recovery, it eliminates a lot of the issues that we have in this facility with 60 servers running as opposed to virtualized servers.
That's good, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Wong. Okay, so is there anybody that care to make any motions on this item, or are we satisfied with the information that Ken presented? Councillor Rice?
Well, no, I'm not satisfied, but my experience with this is, they talk in all of these terms. It intimidates the heck out of everyone. Only the mayor and Councillor Wong truly understand what they're saying, so I don't see any point in putting forth a motion, even though I'm not happy with it.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Rice. I think Councillor Wong and I appreciate the compliment. Okay, so we'll move on from there.
Was it a compliment?
We'll take it as a compliment.
Otherwise, what does it take the rest of it?
Okay, so Ken, I think those were the only two from corporate services, and then where we left off would have been in the protective services area. So we'll throw it over to the Director of Protective Services. And I suppose the process we'd done last time, yesterday, was to start off with a council member who'd sort of raised the issue to find out why they raised it and if they had any questions in particular or what the discussion point was. Yeah, and so we'll go over to Councillor Gustafson. And the item was land for police, fire, public works and rec building, 3.5 million in 2014, and that was currently unfunded on the plans. Councillor Gustafson.
Thank you. Good morning and welcome to winter. As we move forward and our city grows, most of the departments, the fleet department, the RCMP, and the firefighters, and the bus barn, they're all crying for more space. If you ever walk into the Public Works building in Industrial Park and go into the mechanic shop there, it's stuffed full of fleets, and I'm not sure how, when we added on to that building, we didn't add on more mechanic shop because they sure need it. So, as the mayor requested, I will move for land $1 million in 2014 towards the purchase of property for the before mentioned divisions of the city. And I will open it for debate and encourage some help here, because I'm probably going to need it.
Okay, Councillor Gustafson, so if it's okay, then can we say that your motion is to fund $1 million in 2014 for the land for police, fire, public works, and rec building?
Correct.
Okay, okay. So that motion's in order to fund $1 million in 2014. We'll open it up for discussion and debate. Councillor Rice?
Mr. Anderson, how much money is in the land fund right now?
Ken?
There's a couple $100,000 in the land fund at the moment, but with the changes in the reserves, we're suggesting that close off to financial stabilization reserve, but currently there's 200,000.
Thanks, Ken.
So if we wanted to buy a building like right away, where would we get the money?
Well, if you're gonna buy a building, the best place would tie it to debt,
Okay.
because to
We
cover.
use that 200 grand and then,
Correct.
okay.
Okay, Councillor Wong?
Thank you, Mayor Given. I appreciate what Councillor Gustafson is trying to do. He's trying to look out for the future of the city and its operations. But in this particular case, when we're looking for land, I believe that our first resource should be looking for municipal reserve from either future annex land or land that's going to be developed, because in those cases, we get that land for free. We do require developers to provide land for specific purposes, for municipal purposes, and that doesn't end up costing us any money. And at the time, if we do require, or if we spot a piece of land that looks really good, or looks like it could be used for the purpose, there's nothing stopping us from utilizing other sources of funding. We do have MSI left over. We do have the ability to borrow to acquire the land. And land is something that I have no problem putting onto our debt load, because it doesn't depreciate in value like other assets do.
Thanks, Councillor Wong. Any other discussion or debate on this? Councillor Crokin?
Thanks, Mayor Given. Just further to that, I think in the past we have done land swaps where we have attractive land that is in our public reserve that is valuable to somebody else, and they would have a site. So I'm going to be voting against that, because we don't know what we have for reserves for 13, 14 or beyond.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Crokin. Any other discussion or debate? I had a question for administration in our, and I'm not sure whether this is appropriate for Public Works or, or might be a three-director response, but in the budget, we already have funded a new snow dump site on the north side. Would there be any potential to co-locate the snow dump site and this future Public Works Police Fire building, so into a larger municipal area? Mr. Descavich?
Thank you, Mayor Given. Yes, there would be, because the snow dump site would have to be preferably an industrial area, as would the future public works shop, and I suppose we'd have protective services tag along with us.
Director Walker, do you want to talk
Yeah.
about tagging along?
I wouldn't, I guess the challenge we have is there's one service that actually identifies site as one of their priorities, so that is the fire department. So we tend to build fire stations relative to covering an area in a zone with those fire stations. And what we had initially talked about in this project was that the work needs to be done on locating that fourth fire hall, and then the other services, whether the police are a block here, a block there, really doesn't matter. Public Works is in the same boat. They're not driven by site location so much. So that was the intent, was to use the next couple of years to identify that site, accumulate the land, and certainly we appreciate this being in the budget, but the first step is to use the accumulation of land under our legal authorities public reserve process. So.
Okay. Well, so for me, that would be one thing. I mean, if there was a potential to co-locate, that'd be great, because we have some money in the budget already for snow dump. Mr. Scouch?
Thank you, Mayor Given. Yeah, the two criteria would be, again, the industrial area and proximity to an arterial roadway, which all the services require. So that's all we'd have.
Okay, okay, thanks very much for the response, guys. So I see Councillor Gustafson, I see Councillor Rice as well. So Councillor Gustafson, would you like to close maybe? So if you want to pop out of the queue and we'll let Councillor Rice go. Helen?
I'm sort of leery. I really like the direction Councillor Gustafson is heading with this motion. However, 2 minutes ago I heard Mr. Anderson say he was canceling out the land fund and going to put the money in the stabilization reserve, which means once he gets it in there, he doesn't let us take it out. And so what would happen to this money? Where would we put it if we don't have a land fund?
Mr. Anderson?
Well, the financial stabilization reserve is a policy created by council. Council wishes to change it, they can do so.
Okay, Councillor Rice?
Fine.
Okay, I see
Still don't know
Councillor
what happened to the
Radburn as well.
$1
Councillor Radburn?
Good morning. Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. Yeah, no, I think there are other ways. I think we have to do some planning and some partnering, and I think there are some other flexibilities we have with reserves and public land, et cetera. So, and yeah, I'm looking towards the operational side too. So I think what we do today is will impact operational side. So I won't be supporting this motion.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Radburn. Okay, is there anybody else that wanted to have a comment? If not, then I'd look to Councillor Gustafson if you'd like to close.
My mic popped on. Should I turn it off or do you?
Sure, please go ahead. Okay, Councillor Gustafson.
Thanks, Mayor Given. Mr. Walker, you could melt the snow and fight fires with it. So as we grow the city and we got our annexation process coming down the pipe here, we're looking to grow the northeastern quadrant and northwestern quadrant. If we, with Mr. Radbourne's comments, we could really stimulate some growth in one of those areas with the airport expansion and the hospital going into place. It would help stimulate growth in those neighborhoods, and therefore, increasing our tax-based revenue. As well, as mentioned before, these land deals always go through council, so we don't have to decide and pick some. We don't have to buy property. We just need to fund it if we decide to fund it. So, as Alderman Rice was saying, this is a way where if some possible land comes up and it strategically fits into our plan with the public works and the snow dump site and the firefighters and the policemen and everything else we need in municipal government to operate a city, I believe we need to talk about the future of the growth in the city and discuss possible partners in a municipal area, as well as not to mention the economy. Mr. Anderson mentioned yesterday that he had some solid facts that the hotels are filling up, and I also heard yesterday there's a shortage of fuel. So that last time there was a shortage of fuel, there was a boom. So the only place the price of land is going is up. And so therefore I encourage everybody to vote for this motion.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Gustafson. So we've had all the discussion and debate, so we'll call for the vote. A vote in favor means supporting $1 million in 2014 for the purchase of land for this facility. So I'll call for the vote. Thank you. And that motion does not carry. Okay, so we'll move into the public works area. And I think Mr. Skavich has said that he's going to help us out by providing some visual clues to the areas that we're talking about when we get to roads. And so we'll be ready to, may have a little bit of a blank for council members. But the first item on the list was one that I had raised. And actually the first three, I'll speak to them. I think they're sort of attached. The first item, in the case of all three, I think it's a matter of prioritization, recognizing that we can't do everything. The South Montrose Greenway construction in 2012 is funded in the budget for $675,000. And what I'd be proposing is that we eliminate that funding or put it as unfunded and fund off the 102nd Street entrance to Muskogee Park. So I would move, sorry, I can't move, darn it. So, well, so thank you, but so that was my intent, was essentially to say, recognize that we can't do everything, but I think Muskogee Park is the priority for this budget term. And so if there was somebody that would basically essentially like to eliminate the funding for the one project or leave it as unfunded and then fund off the other project, that's what I was looking for. And if there's somebody that'd care to do that, I'd be grateful. Councillor Rice?
What is the Greenway construction and how does removing it affect the planning? Would it be your desire to proceed with the planning?
Yeah, Councillor Rice, I think the planning could still go ahead. That way we'd have a design.
We'd be ready,
And we'd be
okay.
ready anytime we were able to implement the construction of the
What is
Montrose
it?
area.
What's the construction? What's the Greenway construction?
Mr. Descavich?
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. This project would be the one that is directly south of the current Montrose multicultural site. It would extend from Resources Road to 199th Street by the RCMP. I'm just pulling it up now. So through the Montrose Cultural Center, the plan was always to put a connector at one point from 98th Street all the way to Muskogee Park at 102nd Street and 102nd Avenue. And this project would entail the creation of a pathway between 98th Street and 99th Street, south of the facility. One of the issues is that we will certainly see redevelopment to the south of this proposed alignment. And the most important thing would be to have a design. Once we have the design, and we could probably do that project in conjunction with any work we do in the balance of the site.
All right, I'm going to move that we place the South Montrose Greenway project as unfunded and fund the 102nd Street Muskogee Park entrance. And I am because as we speak, the downtown enhancement plan is being rewritten. And because that walkway, as in its current state, is rather awkward. In fact, it goes and then it has to circle around between the RCMP building and there is some concern that because we are a winter city, it would not be used that extensively. So I believe that we need to take a sober step back.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Rice. So, did your motion intend to leave the planning there
Yes.
as well? Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. So we have a motion on the floor to remove funding of $675,000 in 2012 for the South Montrose Greenway construction, and to add funding in 2013 of $550,000 for the 102nd Street Muskogee Park entrance. Okay, so open for discussion and debate. Councillor Wong.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I'm going to speak in favor of this motion. I'd really love to see that Montrose Greenway construction, but I think there's been a lot of debate about what that plan should even look like, both from inside council chambers and from our partners. So I think it's really important that the planning of that proceed properly with the proper stakeholder input. The Downtown Association being definitely a major stakeholder there, and as well as the Chamber of Commerce and anyone else who wanted to have input from the public. So I could see that taking a little bit longer. The Muskogee Park entrance, I think, has been there for a long time, and it's not very prominent. I know that there have been people that have come in from out of town that I've met with and told them that they need to see our park, and they have a hard time finding it right away. They end up circling around, and it is a long way to circle around the college and the bypass before you hit it the second time and see the Muskogee Park entrance. I think it's a jewel of the city, and it should be prominently displayed.
Thanks, Councillor Wong. Councillor Radburn.
Yeah, just quickly, I'm fully supportive of this motion. It makes a lot of sense to me.
Thanks, Councillor Radburn. Councillor Crokin.
Thanks, Mayor Gibbon. Could administration let me know the funds that we get from the federal government where we did the beautification of 113th to, say, 108th, was it? And I understood they were going to carry 108th to Muskogee Park entrance. Would there be funding in that federal to cover that? I mean, I'm in favor of it too, but if there was funds there, I wouldn't want to be spending funds when we're getting it from the feds.
Maybe for Mr. Descavich, the source of funding around the 102nd Street pilot project that was done on the north end.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. If I can pull up the map, The project was actually a cross-functional one that was developed because it was identified as an actionable item in the South Avondale Area Redevelopment Plan. It was also identified in 102nd Street. And one of the elements would be, as you can see, we have a two-lane road tying into this road, and it doesn't align. So part of this project is to redo the both 102nd Street and the avenue. So all of that funding, and probably depending on the type of signage, would be eligible under a transportation grant. And there are several from which we could draw.
Okay, thanks very much.
Okay, but supplementary, do we know anything about, are we going to proceed with, from 8th Avenue to the Musco CP Park entrance in front of the Catholic Church and Cairns, et cetera?
Mr. Scouch?
This project doesn't entail that work at this time, and it hasn't been identified in the capital program to be done now.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Stokes. I
Thank-
think the funding that you're speaking about, Councillor Crokin, was actually one-time funding through FCM, through their green municipal funds.
That's right.
And it was for the, a trial project to see how that streetscape would look. The plan for 102nd Street does envision matching that all the way down as funds are available. And this entrance would conform to that ultimate plan.
Yeah, because we do have bike trails that start nowhere and end nowhere.
Yeah.
It would be nice to get them somewhere.
Councillor Monroe?
Thanks, Mayor Given. Have no issues with this. I'd be in support of it. However, I do have a question. Would it be worthwhile looking at moving the funding from 2013 to 2012, seeing as we're taking away from 2012 funding and deferring it to 2013?
Any member of council could make an amendment to a motion if they wish to, and
Okay, well, I'd like to make an amendment on the motion to have that funding occur in 2012.
okay, so that
Just couldn't let me have one success.
so that motion to amend is in order. So discussion or debate on the motion and the council's opinion on moving it forward. Anybody care to debate that, moving that forward in the capital plan? Councilor O'Toole?
Thank you, Mayor Given. Just one question with that. Are we prepared, is the planning already in place, or do we still have another year of planning before we can go ahead with the work?
Mr. Scavich?
Thank you, Mayor Given. The planning for this project is not complete. We would have to undertake that. And then depending on how long that took and the process we used to come up with the final design, it may well straddle over 2 years.
Okay.
So what you're saying is we're probably not prepared to do this project in 2012?
Mr. Scavich?
Thank you, Mayor Given. If funding was approved, we'd start to proceed and get as far as we could with it. But we can certainly, it's preferable to split it up over 2 years, do the planning first, as we often do, and then see where we are when that finishes, and then proceed with the construction. But because of the roadwork component, we prefer to start that in the spring, preferably.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, further discussion or debate on the motion to amend to move the funding forward a year? Seeing none, then I'll call for a vote. Thank you. And that motion carries. So the motion has been amended to reflect the funding move forward from 2013 to 2012. So we'll call for discussion and debate on the main motion, the last round. I don't see anybody in the queue, and so we'll call for the vote. A vote in favor would add this funding, would add the 102nd Street funding in 2012 and would delete the funding for the Montrose Greenway construction in 2012. Okay? We'll call for the vote. Thank you. And that motion carries. Thank you very much. And I think that takes care of the first three items off that list. So the next one was Councillor Gustafson. You had raised the downtown, Councillor Rice?
Well, I don't have a financial interest. This does affect my employer, so I'll declare a conflict just to be on the safe side.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Rice. So Councillor Rice declares a conflict of interest as it would relate to her employer and leaves the council chambers. Councillor Gustafson, you'd raised this item, downtown rehabilitation plan, $100,000 in 2012 and $300,000 in 2013 as unfunded items. And so do you want to speak to the issue?
Thanks, Mayor Given. Before I make the motion, can I ask, it's 100,000 in 2012 and 300 in 2013. Is there a substantial workload increase?
Mr. Scavich, do you want to speak to maybe the details of the project?
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. This project was identified as we are undertaking a new downtown enhancement plan. We envision that some of this would be pre-identified infrastructure improvements. The plan does include things such as streetscape elements, benches, signage, lamps. So in anticipation of what the outcome of the new plan was, we want to identify some funds to allow some of that work to occur.
Okay, so 300 isn't for a specific project? We could-
No,
Okay.
Mayor Gibbon, it would involve bulb outs, changes to intersections as far as pedestrians, sidewalks go and such.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Scotch. Councillor Gustafson?
Yes, thank you. I'll move 100,000 a year in 2012, 100 in 2013, and 100 in 2014. I'll speak to that for a minute. The downtown has really been cleaned up in the last few years, and starting to be more businesses locate downtown. I believe it's probably the most pedestrian traffic we get, and some of the services downtown are 30 years old. And I'm just scared if we don't look after our older stuff, we're gonna have a wreck down there. And probably cost us a lot more than what I'm proposing today. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Gustafson. So that motion is in order to add $100,000 in 2012, 100,000 in 2013, and 100,000 in 2014 for downtown rehabilitation plan. Okay, so open for discussion and debate. Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I'll be opposed to this motion. Downtown's getting a lot. We just said something about the entrance to Mississippi Park, transit for downtown, or the transfer terminal, sidewalk. It's already, so the sidewalks be done every year. Curling rink, live theater. You start adding all these up, and they're right in there downtown. And I think there's lots there already, so I'll be voting against it.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor McLean. Any further discussion and debate on the motion? Councillor Wong?
Yes, I'm going to speak in favor of this motion. I believe that when the couplet project was canceled for the downtown, it really changed the future of how the downtown may operate. And now that that project is gone, we really need to start planning how we want our downtown to look and how we want traffic flow to operate and things like that. Downtowns tend to die off when councils don't put a lot of attention in them, and I believe that it's really important that we don't allow our downtown to suffer the fate of some other ones in and across the country.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Wong. Councillor Radburn?
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. Frank, is this tied to like downtown enhancement plan work? Is that, we talking about the same thing here?
Mr. Scavich?
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. Yes, Councillor Radburn is correct. We're developing a new downtown enhancement plan, and while we're doing some remedial work, we felt that this would be appropriate to have a start on that.
Thank you. So I'm going to speak in favor of the motion as well. I do think that we're doing some planning, and I think it would be good to have some monies in the budget to proceed with even partial investment in the downtown. So I see this as an investment in the downtown. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Radburn. Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. Frank, question for you. The sidewalk program over a year where we spent a couple million, isn't the downtown already in that for 100, 200,000 per year? Aren't they already included? Sorry.
Mr. Scavich?
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. We do have what's called the sidewalk replacement program, and that's a program that goes across the city. Very little of that money goes to the downtown. We did identify both in the operating budget, and we had transferred past year's funds from that rehabilitation program for work in the downtown, about 100,000 a year. But that was to deal with major trip hazards and safety issues.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Crokin?
Thanks, Rickon. I'm in favor of it as long as we're not buying more land. When Councillor Wong said we really cleaned up downtown, well, I don't believe we have really cleaned up downtown. We have properties down there that aren't owned by us. There's the Coca-Cola plant, the old York property, the Park property, Germain Park. If this $100,000 is helping to encourage people to maybe buy some of our properties downtown with a plan to where we're going or where we'd like to see it go, I'm all for it. But we have a long ways to go downtown, so I think we better not forget about it.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Crokin. So any further discussion or debate on the motion? Seeing none, Councillor Gustafson, do you want to close?
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. As mentioned by other councillors, we really need to revitalize our downtown. This will be a good, fair investment. It's not a lot of money like some of my other motions I've proposed today. I believe I believe that the downtown is getting better, and we have to look after it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Gustafson. Okay, so we'll call for the vote. A vote in favor would mean the addition of $100,000 per year for 3 years for downtown rehabilitation plan. We'll call for the vote. Thank you. And that motion carries. Could we call Councillor Rice back in council chambers? Okay, the next item on the list was pedestrian links, new sidewalks and pathways. There is $500,000 in 2012, 13, and 14. This is currently funded in the plan, and Councillor Radburn, you'd asked to have this item flagged.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. Just a quick question for Frank. This is more just a question. Is this funding consistent with previous, I guess, budgets contributions to sidewalks and pathways?
Mr. Scotch?
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. Yes, it is. I can pull up a table to show the previous funding. This is a new program, and then we're looking at combining the asphalt pathways program, which historically over the last 3 years we spent from 190 to 370,000 per year. We have also taken and transferred funds from other approved projects to do sidewalks. So combined, we're sitting between 400, 290, and 470. So the 500,000 represents the go-forward amount.
Okay.
Thank you,
That
Frank.
gets you the
So
information.
given that information, I'm very comfortable with what's in the budget now.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. So that'll take us to Councillor McLean. Did you want to have a speak to that item?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Gibbon. On these pedestrian links, for $500,000 per year, and I'm all for them because you can ride your bike, not like on a sidewalk. Where a couple of them going? They were going over the city, but we had youth council that brought up a couple ideas where the multiplex, we got how many $100 million in there, and nothing's connection going from there to Highway 40 down to the Tim Hortons. So where some of these might be projected to go in those few years?
Mr. Scotch?
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. Our recently completed master transportation plan and the parks master plan have identified a number of gaps, as well as from other sources. A couple are from council's direction in the downtown, for example, where we're missing sidewalks. Engineering was trying to prepare a map for this morning's presentation, but we will prepare a map showing where all those gaps are. This program will help us prioritize where those gaps will go and how best to combine the asphalt pathways as well as the concrete sidewalks to complete areas. And some locations right now that are identified are Highway 43. We just completed a section from 108th Street to 112th. We want to carry that west to have a pedestrian corridor there. We have a couple in downtown by 99th Street. There are a couple up in the north end around 102nd Street. So we're looking at the high usage areas for pedestrians as well as cyclists.
Okay, thanks very much, Mr. Scouch. Okay, if there wasn't anything further on that item, then we'd move on to 112th Street extension over the tracks, 200,000 in 2012 and $2 million in 2013. I believe this is currently funded. And Councillor Wong, you'd raise this item.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I'm going to move that we move this project into the unfunded category. And in speaking to that, I realize that the purpose behind extending the road across those tracks is to alleviate some of the stress on adjacent roads and also to allow our service center operations to be able to move a little bit more freely back and forth between the north and south side of the Richmond Industrial Park. But I believe that there are other priorities in the city that we should be looking at before we do this. This is a nice to have thing. I think it offers marginal improvements. There are other projects which I would like to see put in front of this one, so that would allow us to push the money back into a pool. I can give you some examples. I believe that our airport needs a second entrance. I believe that our hospital is going to need another entrance as well. We could be looking at putting a pool of money to allow that transportation network develop in that area. It works better for us. It makes more of an impact to residents and for people who are visiting our city. So that's why I'd like to start off with unfunding this project, and maybe we could have that discussion at some later point about the other priorities for transportation.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Wong. So open for discussion and debate. Councillor Gustafson.
Thanks, Mayor Given. I'm going to vote in favor of Alderman Wong's motion. There's a lot of good things that could happen crossing them tracks, but dealing with the CN people, will probably still be dealing with them at next time we go through this. So I'm going to vote in favor of Alderman Wong's motion.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Gustafson. Councillor Monroe.
Thanks, Mayor Given. I will also support this motion for all the reasons that Councillor Wong has said. As well, we need to keep in mind that we did just finish twinning 116th Street, which should alleviate quite a bit of the traffic congestion in the area. So once again, I'll be voting in favor of this. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Crokin.
Thanks, Mayor Given. No, I'll be voting against that. The 116th Street, that's fine. That just brings more traffic to the area. If any of you have drove out there like I have, and there's places to eat there, and there's Windsor Plywood and businesses in there, that they are paying high rates of taxes that we're benefiting from. And that would show people in the industrial park that we're really, as a city, concerned about that area and the traffic flow in and out of there. Now it all bottlenecks to either one end of the 84th or the other. And if we could get some cross traffic there, and I understand with Councillor Gustafson, the CN is like a crowbar floating in a creek. They are tough to deal with. So I think we'll give Frank some advance time here, and we'll get that across to the tracks.
Yeah, thanks very much, Councillor Crokin. Mr. Scouch, could you call up the entire industrial park, like a fairly large zoom out, so we can see where this 112th is and the different access points? Could you sort of guide us through that? That's probably the right magnification there, yeah.
Thank you, Mayor Given. So the area we're talking about is 112th Street here. It's was designed as a major collector. I believe that what happened was that the North Richmond Industrial Park was originally in the county. It got annexed by the city. The city then developed the South Richmond Industrial. There was always a linkage to be shown here. This is a collector road, and we actually have the right-of-way to the south. It's already been dedicated. The benefit of having this connector, because that was the original plan, was that traffic can flow freely within the workings of this industrial area. Without it, we're forcing all the traffic north of the tracks to exit or egress if they want to go south via 97th Avenue, creating additional pressure on that intersection, which is, the service center is right here. I apologize for the scale, it's very large scale. So anyone wanting to go south or north is basically pushed to an arterial to take a circuitous route to get back to a point that may be just across the tracks. So it would help the intersections better. Also of a concern is the nature of the traffic. All this traffic is industrial traffic predominantly. It's not residential or passenger cars. You're talking about all of the trucks that feed the industries in this area.
Okay, thanks very much, Mr. Scouch. Councillor O'Toole.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. Frank, just one question. How long has this item been in the works to get done? Has it been turned down by previous councils?
Mr. Scouch.
To my knowledge, I believe it was here when I started, so at least pushing 12 years.
Okay. Councillor O'Toole.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Any further discussion or debate on the motion? I'd just say that I'll be voting in support of the motion. Excuse me, I'll be voting against the motion in support of the project. Excuse me. So I'll be voting against the motion. I believe this is a project that needs to get done. I think I'd agree with Councillor Crokin that this is an opportunity for us to show our commercial industrial taxpayers that we value their investment in our community. And I think it also will improve safety on all those intersections by eliminating the need for somebody that has a company on the south side of the tracks that need to go to the wholesale on the north side of the tracks to actually have to go out to the Starbucks and back around. So I think it's the right thing to do, and I'll be voting against the motion. Any further discussion or debate? Seeing none, then I'll call for the vote. Again, a vote in favor would delete this project. A vote in opposition would see the project remain in the budget as funded. Thank you. And that motion does carry. So the project would be unfunded. Okay, so we'll move on to Councillor Wong had a
Can I get clarification on if you vote for it, it stays in?
as a no. If you vote for Councillor Wong's motion to delete the project,
Oh, we weren't voting on the main motion. We were voting
that
on
was
his
the only
amendment.
the only motion that we had was Councillor Wong moved to remove the project from the budget. So if a vote in favor was
I voted wrong then.
okay, so
Sorry.
we can conduct the vote again. So we'll re-vote again. A vote in favor would remove it from the budget. A vote in opposition would keep it in the budget. Okay, we'll call for the vote. Just make sure everybody's recorded appropriately. Okay, thank you. And that motion does carry, and so the project is removed from the budget. So we'll move on to item number 7 under our Public Works list. 132nd Avenue. Councillor Wong, you had raised this, and I believe that this was is currently funded in the budget. And so, Councillor Wong, would you care to speak to what your item was here?
I'd like some background information on this project first.
Okay. Mr. Zgavich, do you want to speak to the details of the project?
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. If I could have the map pulled up, please. So this project involves primarily the intersection at 132nd Avenue and 100th Street, which is Highway 43 bypass. We have the Honda Center on this side and Windsor Ford on the east side. There's a lot of congestion and issues around the functioning of this intersection, and the work basically is extending from 102nd Street to the west all the way to the east. The intent would be to look at upgrades primarily to the intersection, working with the province on that, as well as upgrades along 132nd Avenue.
Okay, Councillor Wong, there's some further detail for you.
Okay, I don't think I want to do anything with this particular project. I believe that that intersection is terrible, and it's one of the reasons why a lot of traffic is diverted onto Crystal Lake Drive and Lakeland Drive. And fixing this particular problem will probably help alleviate some of the problems that the residents have been suffering.
Okay,
So,
thanks very much,
good.
Councillor Wong. So just the further information was helpful. Okay, Councillor Monroe.
Thanks, Mayor Gibbon. Frank, does that work? That will address the issues that the service roads have going into that intersection. Is that correct?
Mr. Zgavich.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. Yes, it would.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. It's just not that intersection. Are you doing further down that road, or just how far are you going down the road going east on this Vanson Highway, we call it, or whatever?
Mr. Scott.
132nd.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. We would proceed as far east as 84th Street.
Okay, so there's a reason behind this besides just the intersection. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, thanks very much. So at this point, there's no motion on the floor, and so we'll move on from this item unless there's any business arising from that. Seeing none, then we'll move on to item 8 on our list. Roads, 84th Street, 100th Avenue to 132nd Avenue. This is currently funded in the budget, $600,000 in 2012 and $6 million in 2013. And Councilor McLean, you'd raise this item.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I'm going to want to make a motion on this to unfund this. And the reason why I'm making this motion, we just passed one for the intersection, which is very important by Humpties and Honda and Windsor, and all the way going to 84th. The reason why they want to build this road is to have an extra way going on the east side. There's no road built there yet. But I have a problem because on 132nd going west on the other side of Honda Ford, it's all gravel, and we got a road built, but we're not going to pave it. But then we'll go build a brand new road and leave some more in the city that aren't being paved. So I think we should unfund it as is, and then if whatever money's left over from the previous 2.2 million, this one's 6.7 million, and we should look at another direction where we have a road already built, not paved, and until we fix a few of those, then look at building another new road. So I like to go unfunded.
Okay, so that motion is ordered. Councilor McLean, motion to remove funding of $600,000 in 2012 and $6.07 million in 2013 for the 84th Street project. Councilor, so lineup of discussion debate. Councilor Rice.
Okay, I am going to urge council to leave the funding in place. However, leave the funding in place, but do not start the work. That we ask the department to begin the process of identifying roads, road construction we could do that would prove beneficial to the city financially. Believe that often we are guilty of building roads tomorrow to meet the needs of yesterday. And so I think that we need to take a look. There are some opportunities where if we did road work, we could increase our tax base. So I'd like to leave this money in place, and I don't know if you want to change the title of it, not for this road project, but for new road construction. And the 112th might be one that they take a look at that could indeed, but there are other new areas that are opening up that we could increase road work in that could give us greater income. So I'm asking that you leave this funding in place, but suspend this project. I'm not quite sure how to do that.
Okay, well, I think, I'm not sure that we could do a motion to amend because they'd be substantially
Substantially
different.
different, yeah.
So,
So I'm urging you to defeat Kevin's motion.
okay, or if Councilor McLean wishes, he could withdraw his motion and we could have another one to maybe change the details of the project to perhaps road priority projects or
Okay.
something that's a little bit more broad.
Generic.
In general. Yeah.
Okay.
So, Councilor McLean,
I'd
would you
like
care
to
to withdraw your motion?
withdraw my motion because I believe Councillor Rice is going in the right direction, that we could be looking at fixing streets that we already have in our city in another direction. And
Okay.
just have the money, but maybe use it somewhere else.
Okay, so
I'll
Council.
remove it.
Okay, then I would make a motion that we reallocate that funding to road priorities, future road priorities, or what do you want to call it? Frank?
Mr. Scavich, do you have a suggestion of what a term for that sort of concept could be?
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I think we could rely on the Transportation Master Plan to identify the prioritized future roadway network additions.
How about, Councilor Rice, how about transportation master plan and strategic road priorities?
Okay, perfect.
Would that be appropriate? I think that sort of captures the concept that we're going after.
In speaking to this motion, when we pass it, then I believe that we also will need to refer to Public Works Committee some traffic calming measures along that stretch of road.
Okay. Okay. Thanks very much, Councilor Rice. So discussion and debate on basically the reallocation of these funds to transportation master plan and strategic road priorities. Any discussion or debate? Councilor Gustafson?
Well, I'm sorry, I was still in the queue before Helen's
Previous?
captured my
So
thoughts.
We'll move on to the next, then Councilor Crokin.
Thank you. I'll be supporting the motion because she really tweaked my interest when she mentioned 112th Street extension again. And in that, would there be money in that for, say, doing a traffic count in that area on 112th? I don't know how we'd figure out the traffic that's going around other than stopping people and asking where they're going.
Well, I think with this motion, it speaks to the priorities in the transportation master plan, and if
Okay.
that sort of project was identified, and if there was already data there, then we rely on that information.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Wong?
I'm going to speak in favor of this motion. I know that I was on the Public Works Committee that was really trying to push another alternative route for traffic going north and south from 132nd to 100th Avenue. But I feel that after hearing a little bit of discussion and just giving it some thought, that our money could be more strategically spent to really help boost the economy of Grand Prairie, especially in the way of industrial development, which is what we need. And in addition, I believe that the traffic calming on Crystal Lake Drive could be accomplished in other ways. There was never a guarantee that having that extra road there was going to alleviate some of the issues that the residents were talking about. So, the fixing of that one intersection at 132nd and 100th is going to make a big difference right away. there could be other things that we could do. Not sure that we've explored all our avenues yet, so definitely in support of this motion.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Wong. Any further discussion or debate on the motion? Seeing none, then I'll call for the vote. A vote in favor basically changes the project. It will leave the money the same. The money is available in the budget, but basically changes the project with further information. Obviously, we'd have to come to council about which priority projects would council would choose to fund. So we'll call for the vote. Thank you. And that motion carries. That brings us to item 9 on the list, 92nd Street twinning, 100th Avenue to 116th Avenue. There's $350,000 in 2013 and 3.5 million in 2014 that was previously unfunded. So this project was not funded previously, and Councillor Monroe, you'd raise this item.
Thank you, Mayor Given, and I guess just speaking about our priorities as per our last motion, perhaps maybe this is something that we could look at as far as one of those projects that we want to move ahead. I believe that 92nd Street, right now, it's twinned up to 104th Avenue, and then it goes to single lane all the way up to 116th Avenue. This roadway is quite heavily congested, in particular early mornings and in the evening times, and I would identify this as a street that we should look at having twinned, and therefore I would move that that we fund this out of the $6 million that we had just out of the previous motion that in that title, I guess. Does that make sense?
I think so. Maybe.
Or would it be easier just to say fund it?
I think. Well, so I think we need to be clear what the intent is. Are you looking to use a portion of the $6 million that was previously there, or are you looking to add additional funding? Because the previous motion basically spoke about looking at the priorities in the transportation master plan and other strategic priorities, and the effect of using a portion of that money now would be to say we're going to pick one particular priority right now. So there's that difference. Are you looking to add
Okay.
funding for this and leave that $6 million available for other priorities? What's your intent?
I guess I would add funding for it at this time, and then that way we are leaving our options open for that priority chart.
Okay. Okay. So so your motion is in order then. Actually, would have been either way, but this motion is certainly in order to add $350,000 in funding in 2013 and 3.5 million in 2014 for twinning of 92nd Street from 100th Avenue to 116th Avenue.
And
Councilman Monroe?
Sorry, one thought that I just realized here, and maybe Frank can answer this. As it's stated right now, it's twinning from 100th Ave to 116th Ave. In fact, I believe it would be twinning from 104th Ave to 116th Ave. Does that reduce the cost listed here by 25%?
Mr. Descavage.
Thank you, Mayor Given. As a preamble to that, this road was identified in the Master Transportation Plan as a priority. Council did approve us to undertake a functional planning study, which is currently being done and is a natural progression. The study did go between 100th Ave and 116th Ave, and we usually do that between the arterials. And while it is a 4-lane between 100th and 104th, we would still anticipate doing work in that area to enable the proper functioning of the intersection of that. So it would not reduce it significantly, and we wouldn't want to exclude it because we'd then have a road complete from 100th Ave, which is an arterial, to 116th.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So the motion is still in order. We'll call for discussion and debate. I see Councillor Gustafson.
Thanks, Mayor Given. I will be supporting this motion. Since we've twinned 116th and finished that road off, it really impacts the direction of flow on 92nd Street. I've witnessed cars backed up from 116th to 108th. One lane backed up the whole way. So once we hit winter and traffic starts to slow down a little bit, we really need to twin that road. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Gustafson. Councillor Crokin.
Yeah, I'm speaking in favor of it also, but I sure would like to have a look at that figure that we just did, that twinning on 116th for 6 point something million, and this is 3.5. I'm saying, So that's up to, or?
Mr. Skavich, do you want to speak to the level of funding or comparison to previous projects?
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. On 116th Street, we spent approximately 8.1 million, and that was to cover from 68th Ave to 97th Avenue, roughly. This road would entail some land acquisition, as well as a comparable length, but it would all be in an urban section. There's no rural. On 116th, we also did rural for 1 mile.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Skavich. Okay, Councillor Radburn?
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I won't be supporting the motion. I'm fully supportive of the previous motion to give us a pool of monies to look at our priorities, strategic priorities and transportation priorities. That was the purpose. I think that this project should be a part of that discussion, but I don't think it should be funded at this time until we've had that discussion, that reporting, and that analysis, shall we say. Plus, I'm cognizant of the fact that it looks like we're adding, we're taking away from the little capital tax and MSI funding that we have when we started the day. And I think we need that flexibility on a go-forward basis as we continue our budget deliberations. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Wong?
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I also am going to have to speak against this motion. I believe that the proper process to bring this back on the table would be to have that discussion at Public Works when administration comes back with a list of priorities in the city from the Transportation Master Plan. And this road may well fall into that category as one of the top priorities, but to see it funded now could put in jeopardy another road that may be in higher priority. So we don't know until we see the whole scope of the Transportation Master Plan and have that discussion in committee.
Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I'll be voting against this. I think it's a great idea, but we just deleted one project to look at, maybe a couple more, and this could be included in that, but it's unfunded. To make it funded, that's going to be almost $4 million. That's 4% tax increase, just saying, or using up money where we could bring it down more. So I'd like it to come to the committee as well.
Okay. Thanks, Councillor McLean. Okay, so any further discussion or debate on the motion? Seeing none, then I'll call for a vote. A vote in favor would add new money to the budget for this project. A vote in opposition would see the project remain unfunded. So we'll start the vote. Thank you. And that motion does not pass. Okay. That'll bring us to item number 10, road rehab and overlay. This was currently funded in the budget for $8 million a year from 2012, 13, and 14. And Councillor Radburn, you'd asked to have this one flagged.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. Just for Frank again, just wanting a comparison of what we have been spending relative to what's in the budget on a go-forward basis.
Mr. Skavich?
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I do have a table to pull up, but in absence of that, in past years, 2009, we spent 6.2 million. It's a combined program. We spent 1.3 on overlay and 4.9 on road rehab. In 2010, we spent 1.45 in overlay, 4.6 in rehab for a total of 6.075 million. And in 2011, we spent 1.6 million in overlay and 5.4 million on rehab for a total of 6.995 million. So the benefit of this is we would, by combining the programs, would enable us to more timely do overlay work on certain roads and also enable us to maintain or catch up on our backlog. We did do an analysis showing that if we continued at $7 million per year, we'd be a 30% backlog. If we go to 8 million, we're at a 26% backlog by 2021, and at 10 million per year, we're at 21%. So the 8 million basically allows us to have a quarter of our road network in a backlog, considering too that a number of roads are being added to the system. And usually these come in because of the growth we've had, the new additions like 116th Street, which in 10 years will be up for rehab.
Thank you, Frank. I'm completely satisfied with what we have in the budget now. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Mayor Given. Questions for Frank. We had some last year that came under, and I think we got possibility of maybe that happened again, so more projects may fall if that prices are under. Is it just a one-year outlook? I know this is 3, 4, but are you able to get some contracts, like say, we're gonna do this street or this Ave, but whoever the suppliers or might be doing it, Wapiti, Nelson, that this year or next year, and they come in on board on this price? Or is it just for next year and then you do for the next year, or are you able to get them locked in for a couple?
So, multi-year tendering?
Yes.
Or, okay. Mr. Scavage?
Thank you, Mayor Given. It's a good question. Yes, we do go to multi-year tendering. We often let our projects go for 2 or 3 years with an option second or third. They do have clauses in them though, because the roadwork is tied heavily to the asphalt, and that is tied to oil prices, which do fluctuate and change over a 2 or 3 year period. So there are both escalation and de-escalation clauses in that. But the benefits of doing a multi-year program is that we reduce the administrative and the tendering costs that go with that, as well as continuity from the contractor. But it's a big benefit to the city.
Okay, thanks very much. Councillor Rice?
My question is rhetorical. Suppose after we finish the next 3 items, and Mr. Anderson says, okay, here's your, in 2012, 3 point what percent, 13. Would we then have the opportunity, if we say, yeah, to go back and remove $1 million from here? And they're leaving it in place now, but would we have a second opportunity should we not like Mr. Anderson's numbers, even though he'll tell you those are our numbers?
I was actually just going to say the same thing. I think by now we own these numbers. I will, well, this is what I'll say, is we've got just 3 items on our list. Well, not including this, we have 2. We'll be done relatively early. I'm not sure that administration, I mean, this would complete our capital budget discussions.
Yeah.
So what I propose is that after we finish these couple of items, we'll have a little bit of a break, and that'll give administration a time to pull together those numbers and give council, we'll come back from break, they give council some information. And if there was anything that was a burning priority, then we could have an opportunity to look at that. And if not, if there wasn't, then we could adjourn for the day and everybody else could go and complete some of their other business, and we could start operational budget discussions next week.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Does that sound reasonable to everybody looking around the council table? And, okay. Okay. Councillor Radburn, do you have a question or a point?
The point is that I think the process that you've outlined is useful. I just want to remind us that we still have a big part of our budget to discuss next week. So to make decisions premature maybe might be unwise. I think we need some flexibility with capital tax or whatever, maybe. And so yeah, I just caution we can still revisit capital after we look at operational. Like it's not, budget isn't complete until it's complete. So anyway, thank you.
Okay. Thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. So then I think we've finished that item number 10, road rehab, and that brings us to item number 11. Councillor Gustafson, you had raised the Bear Creek Reservoir $5 million in 2013. I don't believe this was currently funded, and I'm sorry, I couldn't find the page number for that. Is it in our budget document? Did it actually show up?
Page 10 of 12, 4 from the bottom.
Thank you very much. Bear Creek Reservoir upgrades, $5 million unfunded in 2013. So Councillor Gustafson, you'd raise this. What's your pleasure?
Thank you, Mayor Given. When I first got elected 4 years ago, this was estimated at $3 million. Now we're pushing over 5. 3 years from now, it's probably going to be 7 or 8. It's right in the center of our city. It's 15 acres of land that is overgrown and swamped in, and you know, in the spring it really reeks up that whole area. We're neighboring the college property, the Rotary Campground, the Elks Hall, and there's lots of potential for this property to enhance our park area, not to mention the new hospital right across the street, Center 2000. Right now, the birds don't even go there. So I will move 1 million in 2013 and 1 million in 2014 to enhance and beautify and look after our park inventory.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Gustafson, I need you to be specific on your motion. Is this a project that's different than what's in the budget? You said to enhance and beautify our park inventory. If you want to be, that isn't currently a project listed in our budget. If you're speaking about the Muskosipi, the Bear Creek Reservoir upgrades, then do you want to clarify that for us?
I will move $1 million in 2013 and $1 million in 2014 towards the Bear Creek Reservoir upgrades.
Okay, thanks very much for the clarity. So that motion, of course, is in order, and we'll call for discussion and debate. Councillor Rice?
I guess my question is, my understanding is the biggest problem that creates its, I don't know if this is even a word, but I'll say malodorous persona is what's coming into it. Have we figured out a way to, like, I like the project. I just don't want to clean it all up only to have it back again to where it started from in a very short period of time because of what's coming into it from the north.
So
How
is that-
tactful was
is that
that?
just discussion?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I'd have a question for Mr. Skavich. Committee recently received a report from administration. I don't know if you have the details of that, but there were a couple of different options outlined in that report. And my memory fails about what $2 million would get us. I know that there were a couple different levels of detail in that. So, Mr. Skavich?
Thank you, Mayor Given. Unfortunately, I don't have the two scenarios that were shown at the Public Works Committee. But if we pull out the map and look at the reservoir, the cheaper of the two, for roughly, I believe it was $2 to $2.5 million, was to basically look at a channelization of the Bear Creek within the reservoir, and then look at using the sediment that would be dragged out of that channel type scenario to enhance the islands or create islands within the reservoir. That was the first phase, and then the ultimate phase, of course, was to do the whole reservoir, but the cost for that was very significant.
So was it fair to say the cost for that was the $5 million?
$5 million plus.
Okay. Okay. Thanks very much. Councillor Crokin?
Thank you, Mayor Given. I would, I'm not going to support that. I would like to look at a longer vision of what we're going to do with Bear Creek. The reason that there's no birds there is that because it's ice 8 months of the year. So that's why there's no birds there.
Okay. Councillor Rice?
Mr. Descavich talked about the channelization. Will that get rid of the odor?
Mr. Skavich?
Mayor, given the intent would be to get rid of the odor and prevent sedimentation, we basically have to remove all of that material and relocate it. No, that would either be disposed of or aerated.
And yeah, I was going to say, and didn't we up at Crystal Lake, didn't we do some aeration there to keep the odor down? And would that be something that we'd be looking at doing there?
Mayor,
So
given
it churns away?
Mr. Skavich?
Thank you, Mayor Given. Yes, that'd be part of the process as a maintenance thing after we did the work.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Radburn? Gotcha.
Thanks, Mayor Given. Now I'll be speaking against this motion. I agree with Councillor Crokin. We need a long-range plan. We've started that plan with the work we've done, but I do think that we need to have a vision of what we want before we start. And you know, there are a lot of people who like Muskosipi Park as natural as it is. And so I want to see the plan to see what might happen to that naturalness before I support spending $1 million over $2 million over 2 years, even that much. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Wong?
Thank you, Mayor Given. The Muskosipi Park Reservoir Rehab Plan was on the Public Works October 4th agenda, so you can see it all there. I think we need to have a plan in terms of how we would phase in the rehab of the reservoir. I think one of the number one priorities there is to remove that sediment that's accumulated. I think that's one of the major issues there. The plan showed over 5 meters of accumulation over 50 years, which is, just incredible when you think about that level of sediment and what that sediment could possibly be made up of. And it estimated about $500,000 to remove that. Councillor Rice is absolutely right when she talked about we need to look at the sources of that, because the Claremont Lagoon empties into our reservoir. That's a scary thought. I wouldn't want to see people swimming in there knowing that happens. So I'd have to speak against the motion for now, but I would like to have a discussion in the future about how we could phase this in to do some kind of rehab. And I also believe that before we even get started on this, we have to engage Alberta Environment and make sure that we have the authority to start altering the wetland, because that's they have the ultimate jurisdiction there. We need to seek approval from them, and that could be a long process on its own. So just putting money towards it doesn't necessarily accomplish what we want to accomplish.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Wong. Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Mayor Given.
Sorry, Councillor McLean, you can just turn on your microphone.
I believe Councillor Gusman, the area is going to is really commended, and something should be done very soon. But I don't think the city should be held just responsible. There's a new land use framework by the provincial government, a big settlement. I believe Grand Prairie being a hub city in the north, it's time for provincial government to come in some other areas, and I believe our waterways should be fixed up quite a bit, and I think we should direct administration or to get more information into the new premier and to tell her about some of the issues. And something was just brought at a CDC committee meeting about Mississippi Park and going in our northwest annexation area. And so it is all part of the parcel. And there's some major areas that people that own land that are all in favor of the park system. So I don't think we should be holding the ball on this ourselves, so I'll be voting against it for now, but I think we need provincial funding and to really stress the provincial government, get on board.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor McLean. Councillor O'Toole?
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. I just want to mirror the same comments as what Councillor Wong had suggested. Before we do anything, we still have to have the approval of the environment, and that could take anywhere from 2 to 5 years. It's a big project, and there's nobody here, I don't think, more passionate about that park and the Muskogee Pond reservoir than me. I really would love to see something really develop there, but there has been plans proposed to Public Works, but we're just still in the very infant of the planning process. This is a major project. It involves a lot of different government agencies, and I think we need to have something really put in place, not only for the actual work, but for the funding as well. So I'm going to vote against it.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. Councillor Wong?
Yes, Mayor Given, I just wanted to correct my earlier statement of the cost. With the little tiny writing on my iPad here, I misread this. It's 500,000 cubic meters that needs to be hauled away, which with a cost of over $10 million. Yeah.
There's a difference in a few decimal points.
Yes,
yeah, okay.
for sure.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Wong. Councillor Rice?
I'm actually going to support the motion only because it's always been frustrating to me. Well, we have to study it more. Well, we have to look. Well, gee, we don't want to get it started till we have enough to finish. So it drops into a pit, and next year we'll talk about it, and the year after that we'll talk about it, and we'll all be dead and gone, and we'll still be talking about it because we don't start it, so we never get the approvals, so we never move the project forward. Sooner or later you got to step off the cliff and say, let's just start it and get going on it.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Rice. Councillor O'Toole?
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. Frank, I got a question for you. Have we looked into talking to Environment right now? Is the project sort of in place and still doing some work towards it?
Mr. Scavich?
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. We've had some very preliminary discussions with Alberta Environment people about if the project proceeds, the way we'd have to go about that. We certainly have to get a permit to occupy and a permit to construct, and we do that on all the projects we do involving them. But there's been nothing more than that.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. So any further discussion or debate on Councillor Gustafson's motion? The motion would add $1 million in 2013 and 14 for the Muskogee, for the Bear Creek Reservoir upgrades. So a motion in favor would support that and would add that money to the budget. A vote in opposition would see the project remain unfunded. So we'll start the vote. Thank you. That motion does not carry this time. Okay, so that brings us to number 12 on our Public Works list. Councillor Gustafson, sorry. Excuse me.
If it hasn't been referred already with the comments roundtable, I'd like to make sure this gets referred to Public Works, please.
So what would you like to refer to Public Works? The Public Works Committee has received the consultant's report on the Bear Creek Reservoir details, so I'm not sure what the next step is in that.
Well, that's a perfect reason why we should forward it to Public Works. If we don't know what we're doing with it, we gotta look after it. Shouldn't we talk about it and get something going here? With Environment Canada, 3 to 5 years to wait for them guys and applications that we have to do.
Go through CN a lot quicker.
Councillor Gustafson, yeah, it's okay. So fair enough to refer next steps with Bear Creek Reservoir upgrades. So next steps for Bear Creek Reservoir upgrades to the next, to a future Public Works Committee meeting.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon.
Thank you. Okay, so that brings us to item number 12 on our Public Works fleet equipment purchases. These were items that were currently in, or are currently in the budget of just over 1.4 million in 2012, 1.1 million in 2013, and 1.4 million in 2014. And Councillor Radburn, you'd asked to have this item flagged.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Gibbon. Frank, just checking what is in that reserve now, and will this deplete that reserve, or, yeah, that's the question.
Mr. Scavich?
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. There's approximately, by year's end, about $8 million in that reserve. This will not deplete it because through our rate structure and fee schedule, we recover a component of the rates to replace equipment. The value of our fleet is about $18 million at present. We have 450 units, and this would allow for the replacement of 44 units ranging in price from $27,000 to $415,000.
Thank you. Thank you, Frank. So I think the department's plans are prudent in terms of their use of this reserve. I think they've got things under control. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. So, Councillor, thank you very much. Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. Question is directed to Frank about fleet equipment. I was glad that Councillor Radburn brought it up. I see that we rent a lot, and I'd like to know the totals of renting the vehicles and owning them, and we do have mechanics on staff that can fix them. We do. I see a lot of Visa rental trucks under the city and everything, and why? And how can we change a bit? Because I imagine at the end of the month, we're paying a good dollar for them rentals.
So if one of the directors would care to speak to the use of rental vehicles in our fleet, Mr. Scavich, or I don't know if Mr. Roth wanted to speak about that. I have an impression that many of them are used seasonally in parks. So, Mr. Scavich?
Perhaps I could start, Mayor Gibbon. We have been using leased vehicles to augment the fleet, basically for seasonal use, such as parks or transportation, rather than purchasing a unit. But we have taken measures to minimize and eliminate leases, looking forward to ultimately no leases. Through the operating budget, you'll see what we've done with the equipment rates and the pool itself, where we've looking at extending the life of especially the lighter trucks and that, and looking at different units. And it's an ongoing thing to minimize that use and use even older vehicles. Perhaps retire them earlier at 70% of their life into areas like parks, because they only get part-time use there.
Okay, thanks very much. So some further information on administration's plans. Okay, Councillor Crokin?
Thanks, Mayor Gibbon. Thanks, Mayor Gibbon. I guess part of my question was already answered, but when we're doing a fleet replacement, I know we had a couple of belly dump trucks, and how do we, or who does the evaluation on? Because I know we don't have to have brand-new equipment every 2 or 3 years when it's in good working order and it just hauls snow. But who makes the decision, Mr. Descavich? Like, who evaluates if that vehicle even is 3 years old? I know there's a lot of 10-year-old vehicles out there that are still good working order.
Okay, so Mr. Scotch, question about fleet?
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. We use a fleet management program to basically analyze the life of the equipment. We have regular PM programs. Most of the units are lifed out, which means, for example, if it's 10 to 12 years, that's what happens. The heavy equipment certainly isn't an hourly rate because they are driven by engine size and such, but the intent is to maximize the use. Occasionally, we have had what we call a lemon. We want that out of the system. But other than that, we try to maximize the life of all the units and get what's appropriate. To add to that, what we will be doing is perhaps looking at, on our heavy equipment, flipping it out so that we never have a loader or grader older than 2 years. The reason for that is we do get a government discount when we purchase that equipment. It's happened in other communities. They do it whereby flipping it out, we maintain our 2-year warranty, bumper to bumper. The industry gets a good unit at a low price, and we basically get new units at a very, very low additional cost when we trade in the old one. So it's a way of actually bolstering the value of the fleet and having to do less with those units.
Okay, okay. So some further information that appeared to be useful. And that brings us to the end of our flagged items list. So I propose that we take about, well, we're just after. That item number 13 had been previously dealt with item number 1 under corporate services. Those work together. So there was one additional item that administration had asked to add around the Brochu subdivision. I wonder, Mr. Scavich, is that still something that we'd like to add, or does Mr. Scavich want to speak to the project?
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I'm just going to pull up the drawing.
Who's Sarah?
Who's Sarah?
Your credit card is that?
Where is this? Yeah. No, I don't have it. Anyhow, the project was intended to have a connector road between Brochu subdivision, which we annexed from the county, and the Westgate Stage 2 development on the west end of the city. I can pull up the map.
Maybe just while we're getting the details on that, we could do our break now and give everybody an opportunity to go to the washroom, refresh their glass of water. During the break, if administration could pull together the numbers about where we're at, so council has an idea, and we can get some further details on this project, and then we'll come back and see what we can finish up. And we'll go till about 1:45. Thank you. Okay, welcome back. We've had our little bit of a break, and so we have an opportunity for administration to give us an update about where we are, given the decisions council has made to this point. Before we do that, before we get to Ken, we'll hear from Mr. Descavich on the details around this additional item, the Brochu Industrial Park. Mr. Descavich?
Thank you, Mayor Given. It recently came to our attention in the engineering department that in the west end of the city, and what we have shown here is to the left part is the Brochu subdivision. Highway 43 is at the bottom of the slide. In the Westgate subdivision, we will eventually require an extension of 104th Avenue into Brochu. And while there is a dedicated road right-of-way in the Brochu subdivision, we currently have no funding in place to construct that if and when the developer proceeds with the extension of 104th Ave. And the cost for that is about $144,000. So we would look at putting in the 2014 budget. Of course, if nothing was done to the east, that money would sit until it was needed.
Okay, thanks very much, Mr. Descavich. So you're speaking just about the area in the blue there, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so if we could just see that again. So we're talking about $144,000 in 2014 for development of the 106th Ave in that blue circle. Okay. Okay. So this is the Brochu Industrial Park. Frank, can you maybe point out where the for Councillor McLean, if you could point out where the Tim Hortons is, so we can get a reference. I think it's.
Thank you, Mayor Given. The Esso station is shown right here at the lower center in the red circle at about 5 o'clock.
Okay. 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 So I think that clarifies it for everybody. So this was an oversight in the budget document preparation, $144,000. And is this so? In our documents, this is currently unfunded. Then is that correct?
That would be correct.
Okay. Okay, so perhaps some questions or potentially motion, Councillor Gustafson?
Thanks, Mayor Given. Is there any preliminary numbers on the green section?
Mr. Descavich?
Mayor Given, no, that wouldn't be our responsibility at present.
Oh,
So just for clarity, Mr. Descavich is correct that the green section would be based on development, and that would be built by the developer of the lands?
That's correct, Mayor Given.
Okay. Mr. Descavich?
The red was for some additional intersection improvements. You can notice the short distance between the service road 101st Ave and 100th Ave. It's just not as, it doesn't operate as well as it could or should.
Okay, okay, thank you. Councillor Wong?
Me?
Yes.
No, Councillor Wong.
Oh, sorry.
Question for Mr. Descavich. Is there a proposed funding source for the 144,000?
Mr. Descavich?
Mayor Given, I'm not aware of one. We rely on assistance from finance.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, I just thought if it was coming out of transportation system levies or a different source.
Okay.
Is there
Well, maybe.
Mayor Given, it wouldn't be levies for this project. They would handle the arterials and other improvements, but there are other funding sources, be it the gas tax, the basic capital, et cetera. But it would not be the transportation levy reserve.
Okay. Councillor Rice?
I'm just not sure that we need to deal with this at this time. Our earlier motion in terms of looking at road priorities to increase our potential funding. This road seems to be perfect to fit in there. It seems to be one of them that should be considered. I'm assuming it's part of the transportation master plan, and because it's not till 2014, and these budgets aren't cast in stone, we'll look at them at the end of next year, we'll look at them at the end of 2013 again, and so it seems that if we simply receive this for information, or leave it as unfunded, put it in but leave it as unfunded, we have at least two opportunities or three that we've identified where we could deal with it as it becomes closer to a reality.
Okay. Councillor Rice, would you care to make a motion? Maybe-
Okay, I move that we add this road and show it as unfunded.
Okay. Thanks very much, Councillor Rice. So that would see council accepting it into the budget documents, but with no funding. So would be, have the same status as a number of the other projects that basically show as things that we need to do, but there's no money attached to them at this point. Okay? Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Rice. So we'll go for discussion debate on that motion. Councillor McLean, did you have something on, would you care to direct your comments to that motion that Councillor Rice made?
Thank you, Mayor Given. This area is being developed quite rapidly, actually. You're seeing a lot of buildings going in there. And so I'm hoping I'll go with Councillor Rice for unfunded, but hopefully that comes up with further talk of the 8 million is on hold and where that might be going for that little project, because there's a lot happening in that area of the city.
Okay, thanks very much. Councillor Crokin?
Thanks, Mayor Given. I also will support that. That was just a short comment. No.
Thank you.
No. I also feel that we're really short on industrial developed land or availability or accessible, and I do feel that this will give the owner of the land that's to the east there, east and north, an opportunity to develop into industrial land, which we need in the worst way.
Okay. Mr. Scavage, do you have something additional to?
Thank you, Mayor Given. Yes, I do. Just got an email from staff, and apparently with the pace of development in Grand Prairie as it can be, engineering is indicating that this project could likely occur in 2012. So if that is the case, it would be best we would do that work in conjunction with the developer's work to get the better pricing and have it all done as one project.
Okay.
So just new information.
Okay. Okay, so updated information may add a different spin to.
No, we've got that money. Like I said, the original motion we made 20 minutes ago is that we look at road priorities that would increase our potential to increase our funding capabilities. And I think this one fits perfectly in there, and it's a very small percentage of that.
Okay, thanks very much. Councillor Wong?
I do appreciate that we have the opportunity to talk about this at a later time, but I think that this project is only $140,000 because it can be tagged on to a larger project. We've seen one block stretches cost us, almost $1 million because we have to get the equipment there for a one-time small little patch job. I hate to see these little chunks not getting completed because the funding isn't in place at the right time. I'd rather see it in place now, so I'm going to vote in opposition to the motion.
Okay. Thanks very much, Councillor Wong. Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Mayor Given. With this new information, and it sounds like developers going forward, I'll reverse my decision, and I'll be in favor of the 140,000 to do the road.
Okay, so at this point, Council, just for clarity, so everybody stays on the same page, at this point, Councillor Rice's motion would not be adding money to the budget at this point. So anybody that cared to make a motion otherwise would have to do it after we do the outcome of this motion. Councillor Rice?
Since I was having such a good day and I don't want to ruin it, and I see the way the wind is blowing, I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay, okay. Councillor Rice has withdrawn her motion on to add this to the budget as an unfunded item. If anybody would care to, this is the opportunity for anybody to make a motion to do anything otherwise. Councillor Wong.
I'd like to add this project for funding in 2012. And Frank, was the amount 144,000? 100? Yes.
Mr. Scavage?
That's correct. It was 144,000.
Okay. Okay.
For 2012, for the reasons I already had explained.
Okay. So Councillor Wong's motion is in order to add this, we'll call it the 106th as funded. 106th Avenue, Rocheux Industrial Park for 144,000 in 2012 as a funded project. Okay. Discussion or debate on Councillor Wong's motion? Do you feel that we had a round based on the previous motion, or would anybody like to speak about it? Seeing none, then I'll call for the vote. The effect of the motion is to add the funding, so a support of the motion will add the funding. Opposition to the motion would not see this project added, and there'd be no funding added to the budget. We'll start the vote. Thank you. And that motion carries. Okay. Thanks very much. That deals with that additional item. I see Councillor Monroe.
Thanks, Mayor Given. Just became aware of an issue that I think would probably best be put into this capital discussion. The issue is that at the multiplex, we've got a timing clock system set up for the swim meets. This is the swimming timing clocks. And we've been made aware that they do not meet standard when it comes to hosting events, whether it be provincial events or national events. Anyways, the issue is that we're a little bit short on funds there. I'd like to make a motion that we put $100,000 worth of funding towards bringing the time clock up to standard so that we can host the bigger events. And as I'm sure most of you are aware, that you know, the more events that we do host here in town, the better it is for our economy.
Councilor Monroe, sorry, so this is a new one, and I wonder if maybe before you go any further,
Yes.
Certainly be willing to accept a motion, but I wonder if the Director of Community Services or somebody from administration could give us a little bit of the details on what currently is there, or what the standards might be, and what the concern is. Director of Community Services, Mr. Roth.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor Given. When the timing system was installed in the multiplex, it was designed as a base system to meet provincial and national standards. There was some additional pieces of equipment that the swim club was going to raise money for and apply for a grant to obtain to add to our system to enable them to host these types of events. They did the fundraising, but they weren't able to secure the grant, and so that they are short a few pieces of equipment. There are several options in looking at this, and the one is to fund it so that if we need the equipment, we have the access to the funding to be able to buy the equipment to make sure we can host the events. The other side to this is that it does take a little bit of time and experience to be able to use that pool and use the new timing system. And the recommendation is that we probably won't be in a position to host an event for a provincial event for a little while down the road. One email I just received this morning is could even be around 3 years down the road until we're ready to host a provincial related event. In the interim, there is a chance of renting or borrowing the missing components. But certainly if we did have it funded, it would enable us to buy, if we needed the additional equipment now, whenever we need it.
So thanks very much for the information, Mr. Roth. Can you, do you have the details on how much money the city had contributed? It sounded like there were sort of three funding sources there: a potential grant, fundraising by a community organization, and maybe some city funding. Can you give us some sense of what those portions were?
As I actually don't have the number for the exact amount that we contributed for city funding. What I do know is that the swim club had raised $50,000 and we're trying to get a 50-50 matching grant. They did not get the matching grant, so they were $50,000 short. Looking at the estimates from the timekeeping company, of course these are very rough estimates prepared for this meeting. They were estimating that we were about $50,000 to $60,000 would be what we would need to buy the additional components. Additional components being things such as touch pads that go at the end of the lane of the pool, so when the swimmer hits the end of the pool, it automatically stops the clock. Some additional starting equipment for redundancy and those types of things.
Okay, so there's some further information about the scope of the project, and so Councilor Monroe, had you made that as a motion?
Thanks, Mayor Given. Yes, I would still like to make a motion to make sure that we do have funding available to do this. I guess the reason for that would be that I would sure not like to see us in a position where we are hosting an event and we can't get rental equipment, or you know, we don't have enough experience. We have to retrain people on the rental equipment, etc. I think that we've invested a lot of money into this multiplex. And I think to, I guess, cheap out on the timing system will not reflect well on us, and that we might as well make sure that we have the funds available now to ensure that we are purchasing the proper equipment. And I, just to add to that as well too, is that you know, if we don't have it in the budget now, it'll be a lot more difficult to get later. And keeping in mind that, you know, it may only cost $50,000 or $60,000 based on the old quotes. I just want to make sure that we have funds available to purchase it properly. Doesn't mean that we have to use all these funds, or who knows, maybe we'll be able to secure some other type of grant for it. But once again, I would certainly like to see it remain in the budget. And that was for $100,000.
100,000, okay. Okay, so, this is a new item that potentially I think we don't have full detail on. We do have a number of days of budget next week. Councilor Monroe, would it be reasonable to ask you if you'd be comfortable in maybe holding this until administration could put together a little bit of detail so council members could at least see the information on the issue? Could we bring this back next week is what I'm asking? Would you be comfortable with that?
Absolutely, I have no issue with that, just as long as it does come back.
Okay, so let's raise this as a flagged item so that we can discuss it next week when we convene back together around budget. Definitely an emergent issue, but I think one that council members maybe need the full details on. Administration needs time to prepare the details.
Yeah, I can appreciate that, and once again, I have no issue with it.
Okay, okay, so we'll leave that as a flagged item. Councilor Rice.
Yeah, and I'm not sure I agree with that. I mean, you know that I've always had some concern about putting $110 million into one facility. The one big bonus for me was that we would be able to host provincial swim meets, where I have been over to the leisure center when there was a swim meet, and it was absolutely chaotic. I don't know what other information we need. We know that the timing equipment we need is not sufficient. We know that it's going to be up to $100,000. We know that we have $110 million into a facility that now can't do one of the major components. Like I don't know what other information we need. That's, that's where I'd say go ahead and vote on it.
Thanks, Councilor Rice. I heard administration say that the cost could be between $50,000 and $60,000. We had, a request for about $100,000. There's a fair spread there. I'm completely comfortable in council discussing this issue, but I think that we need to get the information first and the details. I think that's reasonable, so I'm going to ask this item be referred to the next week as a flagged item, and then we can have an opportunity for administration to provide some information. So I'm going to ask council to accept that. Is there any discussion on any other items? No? Okay. Okay. So thanks for raising the item. We certainly is in the list, and we'll be able to get some information on it and make a decision before the end of our budget discussions. Okay. So that'll bring an end to our flagged items for today, and we'd look to administration and Mr. Anderson to let us know where we've ended up. Ken.
Thank you. I'll give you two pieces of information. One is the property tax adjustments, and the second piece are some of the balances that we're carrying forward. On the first piece, the property taxes haven't changed from what I told you earlier. So it's 2012, 3.6%, 2013, 4.3%, and 2014, 3.7%. Before I leave this, I just want to, as you go forward and you look at possibly reducing these percents, there's two ways of doing it. There's one-time funding and there's ongoing funding. So if you decide to delete a project in the capital plan, you've deleted the funding from future plans as well until it goes back in. So those are one-time dollars, so they'll impact the next year. As far as the balances go, we've been impacting three areas: capital tax, MSI, and the gas tax. So where we sit now with the capital tax at the end of 2014 is $1.7 million. The MSI at the end of 14, you've deleted the 112th Street project, which was just about all MSI. So it's back up to $4 million at the end of 14. Now the thing with MSI is that it's much more flexible than some of the previous programs, so you could use this for facilities. For example, you could swap out all or a piece of the leisure center renovations from debt to MSI. So as you go forward and there's emerging issues, that's something that's always an option. The other one that we've changed is the gas tax. It's down to about $550,000 at the end of 2014. So that's where we sit.
Okay, thanks very much, Ken. Okay, so that provides us with a little bit of an update of where we've landed and how our discussions and decisions today have impacted the availability of some of our monies and our, at this point, the proposed or draft property tax impacts. I think we'll call it a day for today. Very good work. I think we booked 2 full days to do this, and we're doing it in a day and a half. I think that's been very effective, and I commend administration on the detail that they had available on all the projects. I think that helped council make the decisions that we did, and we'll adjourn our meeting for today. Thank you.
I guess I might cancel my